So now we're going to start working our way down through the waterfall. So we'll start with Series B, Series A, go on down to Series Seed, then the common shares, everything else, options, yada, yada, yada. I have my reference cells complete right here because these can get very confusing. There's a lot of if statements and everything else. So I might be referencing column B a little bit in order to get through this accurately. Should help you out a little bit too. So here we go. To start with, we are going to do the sale price per fully diluted share. That's a simple calculation. It is the sale price divided by fully diluted shares. So we can see that at a $10 million sale price, it would be $4.22 per share that's outstanding. The participation cap. So first thing, we're gonna calculate the Series B participation cap. So that equals whether or not it's participating, whether or not the actual share, the Series B shares are participating. If they are, we're going to reference the cap on the cap table, and if they're not, we're just going to put a 0 there. So we'll go over here and we'll say if Series B is participating, so if it equals 1, then come over here and get the participation cap from the column on the cap table that is for Series B right here. Otherwise, put a 0 there and we'll hit enter. Let's go ahead and as we go through this, lock in the correct cells. So on the sales price per fully diluted share, the B11 needs to be locked in. On this one, I6 and cap table R44 needs to be locked in. Next is the max participation amount. So the max participation amount says if the Series B cap equals 0, then it's uncapped, is what it's saying. So there's no cap, and that means the max participation amount would be equal to the amount that would be received if those shares converted to common. So in a max scenario, the shareholder would rarely ever convert to common, if ever convert to common, because they would always get the same amount than if they did convert to common, plus the multiple from their liquidation preference. So it could be a 1x, a 2x, etc. So they'll always come out with a little bit more money if there's a non-capped participating share. Okay, so we'll say then it would convert to common. Otherwise, we want to multiply the participation cap times the cost. So let's do that real quick. So if this cell, the participation cap, equals 0, then take the ownership times the company's sale price. If not, then take the participation cap times the cost. And so the max participation amount is 2 million, so that's 20% of 10 million. So that means it's calculating correctly. Let's go in and make sure we have the correct cells locked in here. Okay, so 2 million. Then we'll do as if converted. So as if converted is simply the ownership percentage times the company's sale price. So we'll do ownership percentage and multiply it by times the company's sale price. And in this scenario, we will lock in the ownership percentage. And I multiplied it by the wrong cell. Do times this 10 million up here, not this 1 million over here. Thought something seemed a little bit off. Most of the time, and we'll see as I drag it out, but I think the max participation amount and the Series B as if converted should be the exact same number if it's uncapped. Okay. So the Series B liquidation preference on multiple. So what we're doing here is we're saying if this share price per fully diluted share is less than the share price that was paid. So if that's true, then we'll move on to the next test and say if the company's sale price is less than the liquidation preference, then give the shareholder the entire amount of the company's sale price. Otherwise, give them their liquidation preference. So we can do that real quick. So we'll do if sale price per fully diluted share is less than the share price paid, and then if the company's sale price is less than the liquidation preference, then give them the entire company's sale price. Otherwise, give them the liquidation preference, multiple. We'll do a comma, that one again, and what am I doing wrong here? Put the parentheses in the wrong spot, and that looks correct. So the liquidation preference is equal to this, and that's what it should be since we're only at $10 million here. Okay, so next we'll do the Series B participation amount, and that is calculated like this. We'll first see, is it participating? So does I6 equal 1? If yes, then move on to choosing the minimum of this if statement. So the if statement is max participation amount minus Series B liquidation preference. If that's less than 0, then make it 0, because if that's less, that's going to be less than 0 for the lower share prices. The lower company sale prices. And if it's greater than 0, then we want to do the ownership times the company's sale price minus the liquidation preference on multiple. And then if it's not even a participating stock, then we just want it to equal 0. So let's do that over here. We'll say if it's participating equals 1, then choose the minimum of this if statement of C18 minus C20. That's less than 0, then 0. Otherwise, we want to multiply the ownership percentage times the company's sale price minus liquidation preference on multiple, in which that needs to be in parentheses, and close off all the other ones, and put a comma, then a 0. If I6 doesn't equal 1, then we want to get a 0 here, because that means it's not participating. So is that the same formula? We need to lock in I6 and H6 so we can copy it down, and it looks like it's correct. So next we have to do the total Series B liquidation preference, and the total Series B liquidation preference is just the sum of the liquidation preference on multiple plus the Series B participation. The Series B participation amount. We have to add a little logic in to account for several different scenarios. So we can do that here, and we can walk through it. So what it says is if B17, so if the cap is greater than 0, so basically, is there a cap on it? If so, then if that's true, then the sum of these two is greater than the max participation amount, then just make it the max participation amount. Otherwise, sum these two. That is essentially what's going on here. So we'll say if the cap is greater than 0, if the sum of these two is greater than the max participation amount, then just give us the max participation amount. Otherwise, give us the sum of these two numbers. And close that out, comma, and then just as a default, sum these two numbers again. To finish up the formula, make sure you put enough parentheses, and I think that is correct for the total Series B proceeds to be $10 million there. Okay, so now the total Series B proceeds, as you can see here, is just the max. So let's pick out the maximum figure between the total Series B liquidation preference or the Series B as if converted. So basically what it's doing is it's saying, are we going to convert or are we going to take our liquidation preference? So max of this number or this number. And obviously we're going to take the 10 million over the 2 million in this scenario. So the residual for others is the total Series B proceeds minus the company's sale price. So that's how much is left for the rest of the shares to split up. In this case, it's still 0. And the shares left after liquidation. So that is the total shares before liquidation minus all the shares that just liquidated. So minus the Series B shares. So that's this minus this. And then residual is share. So the residual per share is the shares left and accounting for how much residual is left. So it's the residual divided by the shares left after the Series B liquidation. So it's this divided by this. Sorry, so again, I did that wrong. I said it right, did it wrong. So it's the residual divided by the shares left after liquidation. Okay, so let's go through and make sure that we have all the correct cells locked in. So B11 and B6 need to be locked in right there. Those are okay. Those are okay. Those are all okay. I think that is correct. It looks like we need to do a few here. F6, 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 D6, H6, and I think we're good. So let's try and pull this all the way over to the end here. Looks like we have some calculations, but also looks like we have some errors because we're getting negative amounts on the residual for others. So we did it backwards. So the residual for others is the company's sale price minus the proceeds, not vice versa. Here. And that's what we're looking for. Okay, so that is how you do the Series B portion of the liquidation analysis, the liquidation model, and we'll move on to the Series A.